Keir Starmer stands at the centre of what could become one of the most explosive political scandals of the decade. Whispers from Brussels hint at an outrageous demand that Britain surrender its hard-won fishing rights in exchange for a post-Brexit trade deal. For those who fought to take back control, this revelation feels like a gut punch. Critics are already calling it the ultimate betrayal, and Nigel Farage is reportedly gearing up to use this fiasco as a rallying cry for his political resurgence. This controversy, however, doesn't exist in isolation. It's the latest chapter in a saga of alleged Labour missteps that are pushing the nation into economic uncertainty and sparking outrage among farmers, business owners, and ordinary Britons alike. Political commentator Duncan Barks didn't mince words during his latest appearance on GB News, offering a searing critique of Starmer's leadership. Barks painted a damning picture of a man allegedly too eager to appease Brussels and too weak to push back against their demands. If people think we're moving closer to the European Union again, you can bet your bottom dollar that Farage will leap on that and use it as a campaigning tool, Barks declared. He framed Starmer's approach as the opening act in a grand political horse trade, one where Britain's sovereignty might be the ultimate price. It's a sentiment echoed by those who feel that Brexit, which was meant to symbolise freedom and independence, has been mishandled by a political class that Barks claims let the people down. He's not alone in this view. Across the nation, murmurs of discontent are growing louder as people watch Labour's handling of key issues with mounting scepticism. And that's where Nigel Farage comes into the picture. Farage, a master of capitalising on public dissatisfaction, is reportedly preparing to make this issue his newest political weapon. Reform UK, the party he has spearheaded, is positioned to gain ground among voters who feel disillusioned with both Labour and the Conservatives. Barks warned that Farage's return to the spotlight could spell trouble for Starmer, especially if he continues to falter in the face of EU demands. Behind closed doors, the European Union's list of demands is reportedly growing. The fishing rights controversy is only the beginning. Brussels also wants Britain to accept rulings from the European Court of Justice, further undermining the Brexit vision of judicial independence. For many, this isn't just a political negotiation, it's an existential threat to Britain's sovereignty. The irony is hard to ignore. Labour, the party that opposed Brexit from the start, now finds itself accused of unpicking its legacy under the guise of strengthening ties with the EU. The timing couldn't be worse. Britain's economy is teetering on the brink, with the nation officially on recession watch. Labour's economic policies are under fire after months of stagnation and back-to-back contractions in GDP. Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves has admitted the latest figures are disappointing, but critics argue that Labour's tax hikes, regulatory overreach, and overall approach to fiscal policy are to blame. Julian Jessop, an economist with the Institute of Economic Affairs, painted a bleak picture of Britain's economic trajectory. The new government's negative rhetoric over summer and the anticipation of a tight budget have damaged sentiment, he explained, pointing to a 0.1% contraction in GDP for 2 consecutive months. It's a sobering reality, one not seen since the chaos of the pandemic, and it has left many questioning Labour's ability to steer the country through turbulent times. For Starmer, the combination of economic decline and brewing political scandals is a perfect storm. Mel Stride, the Conservative Shadow Chancellor, didn't hold back, accusing Labour of killing growth and talking down the economy. His criticism strikes at the heart of Labour's economic credibility, with claims that Reeves's policies are stifling innovation and driving Britain closer to recession. But perhaps no group feels more betrayed than Britain's farmers. Labour's controversial inheritance tax reforms have sparked outrage across the countryside, with many accusing the government of unfairly targeting family-run farms. Under the new rules, agricultural assets worth over £1 million will be subject to a 20% inheritance tax from April 2026. The loophole that allows wealthy landowners to dodge these taxes while ordinary farmers are forced to sell their land has become a lightning rod for criticism. Ian Cook, an expert in wealth management, called it grossly unfair, highlighting how Labour's policies seem to favour the rich while putting smaller farms at risk. The National Farmers Union, NFU, has warned that these changes could devastate an industry already grappling with rising costs and environmental pressures. Tom Bradshaw, the NFU's president, issued a dire warning. This takes cash that should be going to invest in the future of our businesses to mitigate environmental risk. For many farmers, the inheritance tax isn't just a financial burden, it's a symbol of a government out of touch with rural Britain. As the backlash grows, Starmer's team is struggling to contain the fallout. Government spokespeople have insisted that Labour is committed to protecting Britain's fishers and supporting economic growth. But the words ring hollow for those who see the opposite playing out in real time. And then there's the clip that's causing shockwaves. A leaked interview where Barks, with his trademark fiery rhetoric, lays bare his frustrations with the current political landscape. This is the beginning of horse trading, he warns, his tone a mix of anger and resignation. Unless Starmer gets tough in these negotiations, you're going to see Reform UK clear up. In this clip, Barks connects the dots between the Brexit betrayal, the economic downturn, and the political opportunity for Farage. It's the kind of soundbite that galvanises public opinion and leaves political leaders scrambling for damage control. The fallout from these revelations is already reverberating through Westminster. Starmer's allies are working overtime to spin the narrative, framing their approach as pragmatic and forward-looking. But it's hard to ignore the growing divide between their rhetoric and the realities on the ground. For the millions who voted for Brexit, the thought of Britain once again bowing to Brussels feels like a slap in the face. Meanwhile, Farage is reportedly wasting no time. Rumours suggest he's planning a series of high-profile rallies aimed at capitalising on public anger over Labour's EU stance. His message is simple but powerful. Labour is betraying Brexit, and only Reform UK can stop them. For Farage, this moment is a gift. He thrives on political chaos, using it to position himself as the voice of the people. And with Starmer stumbling, Farage sees an opportunity to turn Labour's missteps into a movement. Whether or not he succeeds, one thing is clear. The next election could be defined by the very issue that Labour hoped to leave behind: Brexit. The stakes couldn't be higher. Starmer faces a daunting task: prove his commitment to British sovereignty, navigate a precarious economic landscape, and repair the trust of farmers, workers, and voters across the country. Every decision he makes will be scrutinised, every misstep magnified. For the Conservatives, this is an opportunity to hammer home their narrative that Labour is unfit to govern. For Reform UK, it's a chance to carve out a larger political footprint. And for the British public, it's a moment of reckoning. Will Starmer hold firm and protect Britain's interests, or will he cave to EU demands and spark a political revolt? Will Labour's economic strategy pull the nation back from the brink, or will it plunge Britain deeper into recession? One thing's for sure: this story is far from over. As the storm clouds gather over Westminster, the nation waits to see who will weather the fallout and who will be swept away.